deal breakdown. So this is a deal we got from a realtor here in Fresno, CA. We are still negotiating it. The realtor is a great guy. I got to go to lunch with him next week. If you guys have any questions or comments, let me know. I'm going to break down what we proposed on a deal, what the pain points were, and everything else. So initially, what we had going is this was a referral from another agent who said, hey, these guys want to buy owner finance deals. You guys should probably hop on. I was like, awesome. We will. Thank you so much for it. We'll make sure both the agents get paid. So the agent who brought the other agent's getting paid if we do close on it, and then the agent who brought it to us will get paid as well. He'll represent us. All right. And so with this, it is in a really, really nice area code. So let's say in my head, it's an A-class area. And for stuff that is an A-class or B-class, we want to keep those. Anything that's lower than that, we want to sell those because we just want the really nice stuff, primarily if we're going to buy it, so we can put it on Airbnb. And so this was perfect for us. And what we're looking for Airbnb, let me see. Oh, what's going on? When we put it on Airbnb, we can't do that in these really shitty areas. People get mad, we get bad reviews or whatever it is. And so we're like, okay, anything that's not in these areas, we may make it a rental, but ideally we want Airbnbs. So we got an A-class area, and it's a unique property. So it has 6 beds. It has, 2 baths, maybe 3. I don't want to pull it up right now. And it has a pool with a big yard. So me and my partner were talking, and he was like, hey, if we are going to buy anything and put it on Airbnb, it absolutely has to be something new. Like, it has to be a nice area, and it has to be unique. With Airbnb in Fresno right now, he's like, we're getting slapped with a bunch of different stuff, and so if it's not unique, we won't be able to charge the premium that we need to charge. And so with that said, is like, we need to do something else. I was like, okay, sweet. We can't take anything on, let's say, south of Herndon, essentially, unless it's like in a nicer east side of town. So they sent it to us, and they said, hey, here's what they're looking for. They wanted 20% down. I think they wanted like $550, and they wanted a 5.5% interest rate, and that's a $550K purchase. And so we're like, okay, we may be able to work with this, but the biggest thing is that we wanted to see, all right, if we are going to do this, what is our monthly payment on that 5.5%? I'll pull it up just to give you guys an idea. Generally, whenever we are going to do this, people will have their interest rate, but the interest rate really isn't that important. Regardless, whenever we propose it, I'm just going to be like, all right, so I can do this monthly payment. This is what I want to do. So they wanted 550 or 20% down. Whoever can do the math with me, let me know. I'm going to pull out my calculator. Oh. So we're at 550, 20% down, 550. It's $110,000 down. So that's a really, really high entry fee down. So okay, probably not. Probably isn't going to work, but still, we'll look at it. Maybe it's good. That $550K purchase price, that wasn't that big of a deal. We told the realtor this, like, that's not that big of a deal. It's okay. So we can put okay there. This is what killed us, right? Because with this 5.5% interest rate, if I'm going to go do this deal right here, so this is what they proposed before, and I can go to a bank and buy this bad deal. is what we told them. I was all right. So if I'm gonna do this, there's no need for you to even carry the note. I can go get a shitty interest rate and I can go get a shitty down payment from a bank. So that's not what we want to do. Because this thing killed our monthly payment. So what we came in at, so that's what they proposed initially. What we came in at, and I wrote this down, was, you know what? We'll give you $600K overall. So we'll give you more money. We will give you 10% down. And we will give you 2% interest. And what was it? What else was it? With a 10-year balloon. All right, so we'll start here at this balloon. Everybody say this with me. Balloons are for clowns, because they are. Balloons are for clowns. Remember that. The reason I say balloons are for clowns is because generally, the way I think of them, if I get anything less than a 10-year balloon and I'm not buying it at a wholesale price, I'm thinking of how am I going to get this deal refinanced as soon as possible, because it's just going to be on my head and I don't want to live that way. So whenever we do anything, I tell them I will not do anything less than a 10-year balloon. If you're doing, and the reason I think about that, right? So let's say a lot of these multifamily people who are doing essentially like these BRRRR deals when there's like short-term debt, and I mean, it's what you had to do to get the deal done, go and raise the rents and everything else, or these BRRRR dudes, they're getting fucked in my opinion. Like that'll be a lot of the deals that people will buy up in the multifamily space or in a lot of these spaces, because they have a really high, they got this thing anticipating they're going to get a certain interest rate when their like 2-year term debt comes up, and then there's nothing else they can do. All right, and so that makes it really hard. So whenever I'm thinking about balloons, I am only going 10 years and below. And this is amortized over 30 years. And that just means the loan itself is 30 years long. Sweet. And then I have a 2% interest rate and I have 10% down. So 10% down, whatever that is, 2% IR. And let me see what that monthly payment was. My monthly payment altogether on that was $1,900, which was really nice. And then I have, so we're good there. And the reason we did this and we wanted this $1,900 because we would have taxes and insurance still. That would probably take our payment up to $2,500 a month. And if we kept this whole thing the way it is as a regular rental, it would break even and we may get a good asset, possibly. And like it may possibly break even, just depending on the rent market. So what I wanted to do from there, well, I sent it to my partner. My partner's like, okay, we think we can rent it out and we can cash flow $1,000 a month on this. At least. But for this 10% down, we're going to have to go raise it. Just like how we did this morning. So if we go do the math again, that's $50K down, call it $5K in closing, and then we got 2%, whatever 2% of 600,000 is. So then we got a 12K in commissions. And then I can say I got another 15K probably in paint / carpet. So let's call that 30 plus 80. Let's call it, we're all in at 85. Oh, and I forgot. So we're going to put that at actually 95 because I always want to get paid when I buy a deal. We got to add in that 10K to us for keeping the lights on. So we're at 95K all in. Awesome. So if I'm at 90K all in, 95K all in, my next step, I'm going to go to my fancy dancy amortization calculator. Okay. What does it look like for me to give my investor a 10% return on $90,000 every month? That comes out to $789. So let's just round it up to $800 a month. So now right here, since we have our principal and interest right there, our taxes and insurance right there, $2,500, we're going to add on another $800 to that. Because what we're doing is we're going to go raise that money, and what we do is we put it in a second position on the property, and we leave that forever. We either leave that forever, or we use a down payment of something else to pay it down. With this one, what I think we were talking about doing is we would probably just go and we'd take the cash flow from the Airbnb just to pay down our note, and we'd be happy with that. Right? And so now I got this. What is that? 3,300 at least in a monthly payment. So I'm at 3,300 in my monthly payment. Now we're going to pull up our email from Mr. Handy Dandy, Kyle Stanley. And we're going to go over his Airbnb breakdown. Let's see if he sent it over in this email. Bear with me. So we're looking at it, and he thinks we can get $300. Where'd my pen go? So after all that, now I know that I'm at a total monthly nut of 3,300. My partner believes we can get 300 a night conservatively and be 80% booked. All right, and then I go and do some more handy dandy math. I'm going to go whatever 80% of 30 is. So that means we can get 24 nights. All right. Now, 300 times 24. That puts me at 7,200. Sweet. So we got a little bit of room here. 7,200, and we got our 3,300. Let me see if we got anything. Thanks, E-Boogie. Sorry, guys, I gotta check this. What would have been your monthly payment with initial? Our monthly, and this is listing with Christy. Our monthly payment with initial would have been I had it right there. Our monthly payment with initial would have been $1,900. How long was the loan for? Our loan for is for 10 years. Term of the loan, 10 years. Let me see if we have anything else in here. Yes, this is live on YouTube. Let's keep this going. All right. So now, $7,200 a month, conservatively, is what we think we can get for it on rent. And this is according to my business partner. So now I'm looking at his calculations and I'm like, okay, where are we at? Because we're still, and I didn't even think about this. I still have another $16,000, and this is why you have a partner who's in it. $16,000 in furnishings, $5,000 in amenities. So now, like, my entry fee is getting pretty high. So now instead of where were we at? We're at that 95, right? So 95, then I'm going to take that to, let's say 100, 111. So now I'm at 111K. In payment. So I want to go back and redo that math. So I'll just go back in my handy dandy calculator again. That jumps my payment quite a bit. So now I have this was 2,500 all in, right? And this is why we go over it, right? Because then I'm like I think I got the math down. Then I forget that I had my fucking amenities and my furnishing. So this is with our rate, we're at 1,900. Then we have our 2,500 with our taxes and insurance. Then we take our 95K. It's no longer 3,300. Now I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, we got essentially another $1,000. So now that puts me at 3,500. And this is just debt service, taxes, and insurance. This is what I have to pay on that bitch no matter what. No matter what's going on, I'm paying that note. Like, it has to be done. So I'm thinking about that. And then Kyle says on top of that, we'll probably have another $1,500 in expenses associated with our Airbnb. Damn. So that puts us at $5,000 in monthly nut. All right. And our total expenses. Kyle does think our gross profits will be out 7,190. So we go our 7,190, pretty much minus our 5,000. $2,200 a month, conservatively, is what I'm looking at. Which, I mean, isn't bad, but in all reality, I mean, $2,200 a month is still pretty good. So next thing we can go and we can take this 110,000 and we can go do some math. Like, okay, what's our yield off of this, right? We put in $110,000 and we make $2,200 a month. Eric, if you're still on here, I'm sure you can figure out that math. But with that, it's not too bad, right? Okay, awesome. This is what we can do. So we know right here, all right, after putting in all of this shit, we have a $5,000 monthly nut. Roughly, we can get about $7,200 out of it. We'll net roughly $2,200 a month. We go 2,200 times 12. And that's how much it'll make us a year off that one property. So it'll make us 26 grand a year. So with that, it'll make us $26,000 a year, which is really nice. But then another thing that we'll get with this 10% down and this 2% interest rate, is we get this debt pay down, which would be really helpful. And so the next thing that I'm looking at as we're doing these deals, I want to know what my balloon does look like at the end of that 10 years. Because again, say it with me, balloons are for clowns. Shout out Pace Morby. So now I'm going to put it in my mortgage calculator. So let's just say we go. Pull this up. I'm going to go 540, 1, 2, 3. This bad boy, 2% interest. Now, what I'm doing is so I'm going to go to my handy dandy mortgage calculator. My seller, over that span of time, will make an extra $94K in interest. So not only did we pay her $50,000 over her asking price, we essentially paid her another $94,000 over that span of time. So instead of that seller getting, let's say, listing on the market, getting 500, they get 650, which is pretty cool. Now she gets a lot more money than she would have because the seller essentially just missed the top of the market. All right, I'm there. And at that point in time, I will have a principal balance, let's see here, of $394, which is pretty good. So that means at my 10-year balloon mark, I will have $394,000 left on my loan. Let me just erase all this shit. We got our 5,000. We're good there. We have that number there. We'll keep our 111K. 6 bed, 2 baths. There's our terms of that. So we have, and that makes me feel pretty safe. And the reason that $394,000 makes me feel safe, because I know in 10 years, I'm going to get a decent amount of appreciation and debt pay down to where I feel comfortable in an A-class area. I will be able to do something. If my total loan on this would be essentially, depending on if we want to pay this off, let's say it's, and we don't touch anything. Now my loan on that thing is, let's just say $500K. So I have $500K in debt on that. At the end of that 10 years, I have about $100,000 in equity. But I have some room there to where I can sell it again and just break even. Or I can go and I can refinance it and I can put new debt on it to where probably in 10 years, we are in Fresno, California. I feel pretty strong about the market. You don't ever want to like bet on appreciation. But in my head, I'm like, all right, bro, it'll probably be worth at least fucking $700,000. And me and Halame was on here. Me and Halame talked about it, about a deal he was doing. It was in a great area. It was growing a ton. Even though the market right now is taking a shit, we both knew that like over, and I think he did the same thing we talked about, like a 10-year balloon. He was only overpaying a little bit. He was going to be safe, and he had really, really good debt pay down. Right, so now I'm all in at 500K. If it's worth 700,000, I can still go refinance, or I can bring a little bit of money to the table, I guess. But in 10 years, I know I'm going to have money laying around, or we can just bring in more investors, buy it out cash or whatever, and get the return on our money. So that is how I broke that down. And that's how I mitigate. That's how I'm thinking about my downside risk, right? Because that 10-year balloon is still a risk for me. And the reason I'm not doing a 5-year, because in 5 years, I have essentially a $470,000 loan on the house still, and that would 470. So I have essentially a $600,000 loan on this thing in 5 years, and that's not something I'm comfortable with, right? Because I didn't give it time to pay the loan down if I did it that soon. What they countered at, what do I want to raise? Was $580K, 20% down, 4% interest. And me and my partner both said, fuck no. And the reason we said no is because, again, I can go to a bank and I can get all of that. There's nothing in there that is appealing to me. Even if it is a 4% interest rate, I can go buy something sub 2 and I don't have to bring that to the table, right? I mean, that's still a lot of money down I got to bring to the table, and I'm overpaying because I think on the market, with the way things are going, shit's going to hit the fan, and I do not think any day of the week it'll sell at that. Maybe it does, but I'd rather be more conservative than not. And so we told them no, we'd like to hop on the phone. I'll talk to the realtor again, hopefully tomorrow. And he said the reason they want to do this 20% down is because they think the note is bigger than what they expected. Well, they found out the note was bigger than what they expected. And so what I was going to propose is like, okay, if your note's bigger than you expected, I will buy it sub 2. I will assume your initial mortgage, depending on what your initial interest rate is, like if it's low enough and that monthly payment makes sense. That way, I don't have to worry about that money down, because essentially they want that money down to pay off that debt. And for me, I'm like, well, if you'll carry the note for me, then I'm sure you wouldn't mind us just covering the mortgage note for you, is what I would propose. So like, okay, so I do that. I don't want to do anything else. I still have, depending on what their monthly payment is, I could do that $580K, depending on how much we have down. I'm very okay, possibly. We just have to make it safe to where I'm not ballooning myself too much, to where, let's say they have a massive loan, then they want another massive loan on top of it. And let's say I'm all in at $1 million. That's not something I would do over a 10-year span. I'd be like, you know what, give me 20 years. And that's how we break that down. And I haven't thought out how it would be, because what I really need to know is what their underlying mortgage is. So I need the underlying mortgage and their interest rate, because I can't play with anything else. This is a no. But if I know their underlying mortgage, then I can again fix my monthly payments, which I care about the most. Those monthly payments. All right, because I'm thinking about, okay, so this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at. If I can get this lower, every moment I essentially get this lower, I'm fine with what we're giving to the seller, and they were happy with that. But now we got to think about, okay, whatever we go in, because the lower we can get it, the more I can cash flow on this. And when I pull that lever, and let's say instead of 42, we're at 40, at 22, we're at $4,200 a month. That's a lot more exciting, right? Now instead of 26 grand, let's see how much we make. I mean, now we're making $50K a year. That is why I'm so big on those monthly payments, and that's why I'm really big on those balloons. So I can get the cash flow I want, and so I know I can exit when I need to, and our lender is protected, and we're protected, and we aren't worried about any downsides. I'd love to hear your guys' questions. Oh, 1 minute. Where's our Facebook team at? What's going on, Pipe? Seller Kelly gives us levers without having to go through banks. Long process, but also buys us time. Exactly. We want the seller. I'd rather the seller carry. That way I don't have to deal with the bank. What's going on, Pipe? I don't know who said good shit, Stratton Brown, but thank you. I'd rather go through the seller than have to go through a bank. Let's check these comments. Oh no. We lost our IG live. Oh man. What happened? All right. Sorry about that, IG family. I don't know who I was explaining this to for the last 20 minutes. There's not much we can do when our phone's off. But that is essentially what we do to exit and evaluate an owner finance deal with an Airbnb exit to make the most amount of money possible. Any questions? I know we just lost all of our IG family, which sucks. Man, that's a downer that we lost our IG family. Right? Did you not see it? Did you see the Instagram go down?
No.
You been watching me on TikTok?
Yeah. 20 minutes.
20 minutes left? Yeah, I mean, I had to break down the deal. I mean, this is kind of like, this is the math I do in my head, though.
Oh, I meant you were down for that long.
I was down for 20 minutes?
I don't know. I was on TikTok.
Oh, man. What, Rogelio, what's the most you can do for a down payment to the seller to be able to sell the deal? Rogelio, I'd tell you, I'm not a fan of wholesaling owner finance deals. And I know Pace teaches something else, but I think if I'm going to tell this seller that I'm going to cover their note and I'm going to make all of their monthly payments forever and their credit is in my hands, I'm not really selling it to anybody unless they're in my immediate network. And one thing I learned from Tang Nguyen is Tang essentially, so if this is our initial mortgage, Tang creates another mortgage, and that's him. And then there's another mortgage around him that is this third-party buyer. And the reason he does that is because this is the mortgage that we're taking care of. This mortgage that he has is like $1. And then he makes sure that this third-party person always has to pay up. And if they don't, he can remedy the situation because, like I said, you want to take care of that person, right? Like you told them what you're going to do for him and everything else. You don't want to just not take care of them. Or someone else just not make that payment. What else? What if property needs a lot of work? So I did one of those the other day. If the property needs a lot of work, it kind of makes it hard because I think of my buy-in cost, and the property needs, let's say it's a $600,000 house and I'm $200,000 all in. I can go do that math really quick. Right, so if I go $200,000 at a 10% interest rate, that would put just my monthly nut on that. It would raise it by an extra $1,000, essentially, well, $700. So that would be $1,700 now. All I look at is what is that monthly payment that I'm going to have to make? And whenever it's when it's a property that needs a ton of work, I'd rather go cash, or you can wrap it is another way. And that was something we went over this morning, to where you just essentially buy it, wrap it, and sell it, like clean it up, sell it the way it is, would be the best way. But I'd always tell you, Rogelio, the best way you can do it is you just arbitrage the down payment if you are going to sell an owner finance deal. And then you want to sell to people who you know, like, and trust to make sure that they don't screw over the sellers. All right, is our IG still up? I know we lost a little bit there. Let's see if we got any comments. How do you know when it's better to do Airbnb versus long term? So we want to just do Airbnb. That's all I want. When it's in Fresno, we looked at a fourplex, and I can break down one of those. It was in Fresno. It was a fourplex off of Clinton. And we were just like, okay, what are the terms that make us happy to buy something in a C to D class area that we're going to have to deal with for essentially the next 30 years? And then we determined the amount of cash flow that we wanted, and we just called it a day. But generally for houses, I would say our preference would be, if it's Airbnb-able, we will put it on Airbnb. If it is not Airbnb-able, what is the yield or return on our money when we make it a long-term rental? If we're going to put these people in if we're going to raise the money and do everything else, right? Because if I raise the money what allows me to be able to go in and pay a lot more than others is that I can get $7,200 in rent on a property that would probably only cash flow $3,000, right? And so my not essentially five, but let's call it my $4,000 monthly rent, I'd be losing $1,000 a month on that because I think I can only rent it out for $3,000. And so that just allows us to pay more because we have a different exit strategy that we feel safe in. And my business partner has, I think, 60 to 70 of those that he's actively operating. And so we know, okay, and they're all in Fresno. And so we know the market and we can be like, all right, this is where it needs to be. This is what it is. Let me see here. Does that answer your question? And so like if there was a fourplex on Clinton, honestly, I didn't even run Airbnb numbers. I just looked up the rents and I was like, what's it going to take? And that was that. And then with everything right now, I'm not planning on being able to refinance ever. Unless it's like in that 10 years. And then in those 10 years, we can do it. And then essentially, if the time comes, I know Jumping Jags. It didn't let me know. Jumping Jags, the whole stream is on my YouTube, so you're good. Abraham, let me know if you have any other questions. What's going on, Justin? Well, I looked at with the fourplex, essentially. I was like, okay, how much money do I want to make that I feel safe with? Do I have to deal with having to drive over to fucking Clinton and First to deal with that bullshit? Is the way I saw it, right? Because me and Kyle are pussies and we don't want to deal with just that area, right? And so I think the dude wanted like $600,000 for a fourplex. And so we, with 20% down, I think is what he said. Shit, what am I doing? Marcus going dead. So he wanted, and a realtor brought this to us as well. So he wanted $600K with 20% down at like a 5%. I think he was at a 5% too. And I was essentially just like, nah. I would rather, I mean, again, I'll always give you your price. I don't care about your price. But I think I said I will go another like 10% down, 0% interest, because I think we've baked in enough interest into a stupid asking price. And if I do that math, all right, 1 minute, Rogelio. Rogelio, send me the address and I'll do the breakdown right here. I just won't put the address out. So Rogelio has a seller asking for, this will be a good one, 7% interest. So they want 7% interest, 25K down. 25K down isn't bad. Purchase price $275. Good condition, so 10-year balloon. All right, Rogelio, so let's do this. So tell me what is the ARV and what is my mortgage payment on that? I really want to know the ARV though. We can figure out that mortgage payment real quick. So we got a $250K loan at 7%. So we got a $1,700, let's just call it a $1,700 loan. And that's just principal and interest. That's taken care of. And I mean, taxes and insurance, we're all in roughly 2,100. 275. The 10-year balloon isn't bad. Good condition. I want to know how good, because depending on how good it is, Rogelio, it'll let me know what I can do for it, right? I mean, what area is it in? And I mean, because like, let's say someone offered me a house like this at a 7% interest rate, but it's on like Van Ness Boulevard, and I'd be like, yeah, I'll take it. Like, I'm getting it at a wholesale price, and I can do something with it, and like, they're not making any more of these. And so you still have to see the value in whatever it is. C killed the cat. Sorry, I don't know who that. I don't know who you are. Man, TikTok's crazy. All right, Rogelio. New roof. Went to AC unit, new flooring, new paint. 1 bath updated, new stove, 3-1. Is the kitchen new? Could I Airbnb it? Is it in like a A class, B class, C class, or D class neighborhood? Can I invite you to this bitch? Let me see, Rogelio. Can you see that comment, Rogelio? I want to throw you on here just so you can tell me real quick. Let's see if we can get this out of the way. Roof got replaced 1 to 2 years ago. I mean, that's cool, but I still need to know a little bit more info. Do I have any connections with Astro Flipping? I mean, we just had the man Jamil Damji out here, the GOAT. Why did you say that balloons of less than 10 years need to be considered? Because when you make a my YouTube channel is called Strat Daddy. When you have a balloon for less than 10 years, essentially, in my head, now I'm thinking, when I close tomorrow, I'm thinking of that balloon right now. Right? So as soon as that happens, like, I'm thinking of the balloon. There is no if, ands, or buts about it. Like, I'm thinking about that balloon payment as soon as I close, because that means I got to get on my horse and get shit done. Just like with our storage facility that we're buying right now, I'm thinking about how fast can we get it stable, because our no payments are up in 9 months, right? And so I'm like, okay, we got to be able to cover this nut very, very fast and get this property stabilized. With the balloon in less than 10 years, I'm thinking like, oh, wow, what's the market going to do? What's the market going to do? And it's going to be a pain in my ass. My man. Let me see. Oh, Helio, I can't see any more of your comments, dude. I would love to hear. I mean, we're right in the middle. If you don't have anything else, that makes it hard. But let's just say, and so what I need to know is like, what class is it? Because that determines my exit strategy, just with the way I think. If this is a D class, and this is based off of Fresno numbers, D class at that much, not a deal, because I can't wrap it or do anything else. I've tried at that price point. And I'd have to do like a 9% interest rate. Then I'm only making like a 2% difference if I wrap it and I do like a 10%, like a 2 to 3% difference. So I can't do D class because I know the rents, and anything I do will not cover that. So I can go C class, B class, A class. ARV is like 280. All right, so you got it. 280 ARV. No. I mean, you almost have it. But if the ARV is like 280, they only want 25K down, which isn't bad. But essentially, if these are the terms, and what I'm looking at is they want 7%, 25K down on a 275, you could go get a FHA loan, especially for you, Rogelio, and it would make more sense for you. I mean, it's honestly the same thing. Like, to where for me, I wouldn't do it. Because if the ARV is 280, then I know the asset class is probably right here. And still, if my asset class is right there, I'm not going to, let's say, exceed this 2,100 in monthly payments. Like, it'll be really hard for me to find someone to pay that, like rent. Either rent or wrap. I'm not really going to be able to find someone who can handle that for me. Right. And so, like, to me, I'm like, I would say I won't do 7% interest at all, ever. I'll do 0% interest. And I mean, we can look at the deal, right? So I'm looking at it. We got a 10-year balloon. Over that time, they make about $164,000 in interest. If it's worth 280, I mean, you could push back, and you know what? Let's say, you know, I want to do a 15-year balloon. I'll do 1%. Just call it fucking 1%. 1% interest. I'll still go 25K down, and you give going up 100K is kind of hard over 15 years. And you never know. Well, let's say I gave you 350. So 350. Okay. So let's say they make another, whatever it is, 75 grand. I overpay them 75 grand there. And they were going to make $164,000 in interest anyways. But if I go 350, and I go 5, 1, 2, 3, 2% interest, 1% interest, over 15 years, and make another 37. They'd make an extra, let's just call it 110,000. And that would put our monthly payments at really attractive of 1,045. I care about getting to this. I don't care about, I can play with everything else, but I want everything else to get me to this. Rogelio. That's the number I'm trying to get to. So if I was going to talk to them again, I'd be like, okay, if you can't do that, and when I'm talking to these people, I'm telling them I only care about the monthly payments. I will make everything else work. But if you want your price, I need my terms. And so these are my terms. This 15-year balloon gives us time to overpay them a little bit, that 350. Because, like, I mean, we're young and we saw COVID fucking skyrocket prices, right? But that hasn't really ever happened before. And whenever it does happen, things could go down. And I mean, still, you can talk yourself out of it because you might be in the middle of a market cycle at the end of that 15 years. But this is something we can do, right? Because now we have this D to B that we can do something with. Because I know I have friends in Fresno who have studios that are going at $1,100 a month in like a D to C class area. So and I think you said this one's a 2-1. I'd be like, okay, awesome. Now we're like cooking with gas. This one's a 3-1, sorry. And if I'm at a 3-1, I can get like $1,600. Now we're cool. Let's say, and that would be something I'd wrap. So I'm there, I'm 1,300, let's just say. All in monthly. And then I could cash flow 300 a month. And it would be a true cash flow because I'd wrap it. and I would take that 25K down. I would essentially just throw it on the market. And this is another thing you could do. Well, it's kind of, you know what? No, you don't want to do that. Because if you have a 15-year balloon, then that one's hard. You could lease option it though. Yeah, I'd probably just do a lease option then. So like if you lease option it, and I just say, you know what, I want a $15,000 option fee. That's $15K into your pocket right now. And then you still get $300 a month over, let's just say you give them a 5-year option period. And if you're gonna lease option it, it would probably be like 500 because you could just raise that quite a bit. Okay, average rent is $1,600 according to Renometer. I mean, that's good. Because where were we at? 1,100. Kind of lost track. So we're there. We're at 1,300. What'd you say? 1,600. So if we're at 1,600, then we might even be able to push like a 2,000, like a 2K lease option. Honestly, we have to sit on it for a while, but we'd be able to probably push a 1,900, and then we're making close to $600 a month with 15K down. And we still get the depreciation because it's a lease option and it's only an option to buy. So we could depreciate the whole thing. All right. Do we have any other questions? Any questions, guys? If not, I'm going to bed. Well, that is essentially what I do to break these deals down and see if they make sense or not. Remember, everything is going towards our monthly payment, and so on Helio's deal would be like $1,045. This is what I care about. If I get a 50-year mortgage, right, at that, I can overpay quite a bit. Because imagine buying a house here in Fresno 50 years ago, and you're like, wow, I paid them an extra $200,000. You'd still be quite excited, honestly. Right? If I overpaid by $200,000 on every single house over on the west side right now, 50 years ago, I mean, bro, that'd be fucking nuts. Like, you'd still get bangers. What are the best type of sellers to find creative deals? I don't know, people who want too much. We just ask everybody if they want to carry the note. Like, would you be open to carrying the note at all? And then if it's people for sub 2, I think people with no equity or people in foreclosure are the ones that make the most sense. All right, guys. I think we're out of questions. Thank you so much. I will talk to you guys probably the next 2 days. Thanks for the comment, love.